day, everybody. It is Calxiyn and Hunter here. If you guys enjoyed this video, you guys should subscribe, become patrons over on Patreon to support the channel, and follow us over on social media. So, we are going to be talking about the comic that everybody is freaking out about. Whoa, okay. Also, like, we're really sick, so, like, don't mind that, guys. But we're going to talk about this, and I love... Crow's a fucking savage, eh? Like, I'm not gonna read the whole thing.
This has been the most funny.
There are, like, a couple things going on here that I'm so, like... What the fuck? Like, Ruby spent her first lunch break out back feeding the school chickens.
Which Beacon has chickens, apparently.
Why, DC Comics? Why? Like, is that like, oh, Miles and Carrie's deep lore, like they wanted the school to have chickens? You know what I mean? Like, I get, oh, a little bird told me because Crow is a bird. Okay, does that mean, did Crow see her do this, or did Crow talk to the birds?
Was it Raven?
No, that's not what I mean. I mean, like,
bird.
He's the bird. He's the little bird. He either saw with his own two eyes or he talked to the chickens.
But also, like...
Can we think of the implications of that? Right? Because I'm guessing Crow was just around the school and saw Ruby do it. Like, saw Ruby got abandoned and saw her doing it. Because that makes a lot more sense. But what if that wasn't it? What if he talked to the chickens and was like, alright guys, give me the giraffe, give me the name.
The idea that Raven would have taken some interest in Yang, who she can teleport to over long differences, or Crow talking to chickens!
But I'm saying neither of those things are the answer. I'm saying that Crow turned into a bird and was spying at the school. He didn't talk to anyone. He didn't talk to Raven.
Yes.
Why do you think he talked to Raven?
I don't know. You just have a chat every once in a while.
No, and so what I'm saying is that Crow probably just turned into a bird and was hanging around the school and saw it. But isn't it hilarious to think about? Like, what if Crow can talk to other birds?
I mean, I guess it makes sense.
Because he can talk to people as a bird, right?
Well, I mean, I guess
Raven can, so I'm assuming he can't. Like, what if it goes the other way around?
Arguably not terribly canon.
I mean, apparently, the DC Comics are canon, guys.
They're canon until they're not canon.
Well, they're canon until people don't like what they do.
They're canon unless they contradict the show.
But does that contradict anything we've already seen?
I guess, no, it doesn't.
Exactly. Okay. Moving on. So, Crow talked to the chickens, and then he said, no one has ever accused you of being too aware of the feelings of others. And I love that, because that's a total,
very
like,
sassy,
drag.
Very
you know what
underhanded.
I mean? So Yang just got fucking roasted.
I also like how she says, oh, grapes.
I hate that.
Oh,
Swear, grapes. DC Comics. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? You're on your own site, right? You're on your own platform. What are you afraid of? Like, is YouTube coming to demonetize you? Like, you have nothing to worry about.
Why not say, oh, great?
Say the word fuck. Okay, just let Yang say fuck. Tyrion calls Ruby a bitch in the volume where this comic is supposed to be taking place. But you can't let Yang say fuck or like, oh shit, oh damn. You know?
I really like her saying, oh, great.
I think that's ridiculous. I think like,
Yang not swearing weirdly fits her.
The problem with DC is that...
Are you gonna, as someone who has never read another DC comic, tell me what the problem with DC is? A company whom I've only read one story from. I will tell you what you need to know about them. Go on.
The problem with DC in this particular instance is that the comics at times get so childish and ridiculous, even though the people that are paying are most likely over the age of like 16, I would say, unless their parents are buying them a physical copy in the store, right? Like, you're targeting the age where somebody has a credit card. Like, I know RWBY is a show that targets all ages, but chances are your customer base is somebody with money. So I would say someone who has a job, like, over 16. So the oh grapes thing, it just reads as very immature and cartoonish and silly. And I know RWBY's a cartoon, but RWBY's not a kid show. That's the whole point. So that's why I'm like, let Yang say fuck. Or even just, oh damn. Like, what's wrong with saying damn? Even not oh damn, just damn. You know what no, not like that. Just damn.
I just like her saying, I think this is the funniest any of the DC comics has ever been.
I'm not laughing, okay?
There's some really strong comedic beats.
Anyway, so Yang realizes she's a terrible sister.
So she needs to just help people.
And she helps everyone. Now, here's the other confusing part, and this is where stuff isn't canon.
Yes.
Okay, so she's like, have you met my sister, Ruby? But I'm like, is this not John?
It's funny how...
They met on the first day of school.
They must have had different artists, because the art in this chapter and the art from the last chapter that we read 15 seconds ago is so different. This is so much more cartoony.
Why does Yang have such a big head in this panel, too?
Yeah,
like, look at her hair. She looks like she has, I don't know
She looks like Dolly Parton.
Yes, why? Why does she have hair?
That's a
like
good
Hannah
point.
Montana's grandma.
That's
and
a deep
godmother?
cut.
I don't know. Like, I'm just saying, like, what? Like, you know what I mean? Because it's flat.
Apira,
and then it goes up
Apira,
like this.
Apira, Apira.
Why?
Why'd you have to go and take my man?
This is so...
Moving forward. My God, she looks like Elvira. Okay.
Do I know you? Like, Jean, you've already fucking
Met her.
met, unless you're supposed to be Sun, which I'm like, why the fuck would Weiss talk to Sun?
Sun's
not even here yet in this context. So, and then, okay, so this is fine. This is wholesome. What the fuck is with Jean's eyes, though?
Yeah, they're like red.
I'm like, who are you?
Also,
who
can
are
we
all
go
of
down
you?
there? It's just look at like their teeth, everything from their teeth to like their face to their chins. They look so much more cartoony. It's like I would like them to maybe be like it still looks good.
A little more consistent.
But it's maybe more
in their
consistent.
Art style.
Also, Jean is like when white people go to like Cancun and get dreads
Oh
or
God.
like braids and then they come
So,
back.
Don't come for me, guys. Don't cancel
You were
me.
that person?
But when
You were 11?
we were at the Disney cruise, all right? Like when we were like 8 years old on the island, like, you know, the
Yep,
people
they
that live
gotcha.
there, they do
They
the braids.
gotcha.
Okay? So we did them. There's a picture of me with them somewhere. So we both did them, like full, like little, I don't know what you call them, like the tiny, tiny braids. And they're
Like
all
you
like...
had cornrows.
No, but cornrows are like big, right? So
I
I'm
gotcha.
talking about like the very, very thin braids.
Braids.
So like we had them.
And then
she
out
comes
of
to
nowhere, it's like we have to help Blake.
So what
and
the fuck is this?
There's rodeos
Everyone was like,
and
oh my god, this comic is so great. Look at the Bumblebee. And I'm just like, there's so many weird things going on. Have you guys not noticed? Hello? Like, I feel like people are so focused on the Blake and Yang, like the seconds of interaction they got, like the seconds in reading time, that they're not focusing on the fact that, first of all,
funny.
Jean was Jean and not John. Okay? Jean
Yeah.
has fucking cornrows.
It's funny though. Like
Ruby
it
is
works.
feeding the chickens. Like, what is happening?
They're in a
Am I the
rodeo.
only one that thinks that this is
And
weird?
like they're going fishing and look at Dolly Parton over here. I love that
Her hair's a bit
facial
better
expression.
in
It's
this
wonderful.
frame, but yeah.
Also, go back. That's gonna be so many people like Blake among the belladonnas.
Yeah.
Like I love that image. Everything else is fucking ridiculous, but cooking, the dinner party. Look at Blake. Like even if it's burnt, she's still eating it because
So
it's her friend.
here's the weird thing, okay? They're using probably the book with, I would say, the worst out of the 3 books they reference. I don't want to say moral exactly, but the worst like story to change into a moral for your story. Okay, they use Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Right? That's what this one is. They use Dracula and they use Frankenstein. All to sort of make points later. And I'm like, you guys picked the worst possible...
Or they explained, like,
books.
the thesis of Frankenstein and Dracula.
I don't think they gave that one a point exactly, but later they're like...
And they tried to give it
you
to
know,
Dr.
Jekyll and Hyde, the moral is like, oh, you know, you never know who's inside you. But I'm like, this time, it doesn't need to be bad.
True.
But I'm like, Dr. Jekyll killed people. Like, you
But
know
that's
what
the
I mean?
idea, is
Mr.
that,
Hyde
like,
killed people.
is that
So it's not like, oh,
even
well,
if
it doesn't
someone
need to be a
appears
bad
to
thing
be-
inside you. Yeah,
Even
no,
if-
but that's not what she
I guess
we'll
it
get
is.
to it.
I guess
I'm just
it is.
like, what the fuck is happening? So this is
Anyways,
the part where people went crazy.
They go
I
to
guess.
a bar, but that only gives you heavily caffeinated liquid courage.
Yeah.
So, like, is it
That's
like...
the other thing. I'm like, again, okay.
Give him a beer.
Yeah, and I
Yes.
know, like, Yang, I'm pretty sure has, like, a virgin strawberry sunrise. Like, she's not drinking. But at the same time, I'm like, this is what makes the DC Comics ridiculous to me. Because I'm like, don't you guys have licenses to, like meaty, like, superheroes that probably have a beer once in a while? Like, don't they have Batman? Who does DC Comics own? Batman, Superman? Like, do you let Batman say fuck? Do you let Batman have a beer? Let Yang have a fucking beer.
Could you imagine if you got, like, shit-faced drunk and you had the powers of Superman?
Oh my god.
It's like, oh my god, that was a
Anyway.
rager last night. What did I do? Level a city? All of the eastern
like,
seaboard.
you have Batman and you have the Joker and stuff like that, right? Like, I'm sure those people are, like, drinking, right?
I'm
or
sure
something? Like,
Joker
I don't
sits
know.
down and cracks a
saying-
cool one with the boys.
Yang is 17. Okay, the drinking age here is 19, but in England, I think that it's 16. So it's like in other places,
It's
it's
18
much
in
lower
Quebec.
than America. So I'm just like, who the fuck is, like, not letting these kids in Remnant drink? Because they're all gonna die. See, like, the life expectancy
not high.
Is not high. And, like, back in the day, like, back in medieval times, like, I'm pretty sure no one gave a fuck about how old you
I don't know. I think you can get old. I do find it interesting that they're drinking sunflower pop.
And that was, like, the bottle cap from
and
before.
And Blake, so, like, Blake's trying to forget all the good moments she had with Yang. I think that's really interesting.
Tosses it off the boat.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, okay. And A Man with Two Souls represents something you didn't know you had inside you. But unlike the book, it isn't always that. And I just think that's hilarious. So if you guys don't know a lot of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, okay, this man basically, this is how the story starts. This man runs over this little girl and leaves her on the road to die. Yeah. Okay, and then after that, he just pays them off and is just like, oh, you know, we'll get a check to settle this, and addresses the check to Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. So the big twist of the book is that they're supposed to be the same person.
Or that it's like, Mr. Hyde that does it, and so he signs it to Dr. Jekyll.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. Yes. And so the whole thing is, it's like, oh, that's the twist, is that Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde are the same person. Dr. Jekyll,
who's a doctor and an upstanding citizen, had this secret, like, rager personality.
Yeah, kind of. But it's not just like, oh, something bad was inside. Like, you know, it's not something bad. It's something that enjoys murdering people. Like,
it's bad, but it's like capital B bad.
Yeah, you know what I mean? I know bad is involved. I just think it's funny because I know the story of Dr. Jekyll a little bit. Like, you know.
But it was also a book that took place in Victorian England.
Over time, it has changed.
Which was all about, like, how you're like supposed to give, like, an air of, like, oh, I'm very polite.
But you're still not to murder people, Hunter. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I understand, like, oh, Dr. Jekyll's, like, upstanding and proper, so the fact that he murders people is like, oh, that's so scandalous, you know what I mean? But, like, it's still scandalous now. Don't murder people. So yeah, I just think that it's funny that they use this story.
But they recognize that
unlike the book, it isn't always bad. It just seems so, like, sugarcoaty over this story. That was pretty terrible.
I don't think it's sugarcoaty.
You understand what I mean?
I think it's funny. I think it's funny that she's in the last moment justifying it.
I think it's funny in, like, the way that I'm laughing now, where I'm like, really?
Not
like,
with
Ruby
it, at it.
is feeding the chickens at the fucking school, and like, you know, something you didn't know you had inside you, like a raging murder.
But the funniest thing is that they get into a fight, which I don't know if this button.
Yeah.
Yes, they get in a fight with the. I believe these are the three bears. Goldilocks being Yang, and the three bears, except there's four bears, so that's confusing.
And they're all wearing white fang masks, but they're not white fang masks. Like, they're just like. What the fuck is happening?
Because they're in a band, I'm guessing.
So Junior's their employer, and this lady says that she's their mom. And I'm like...
Oh yeah, so she was the mother of the people that she beat up.
Yeah.
It took me a minute to get that.
And I'm like... What?
I don't know, so they just get in a fight with someone's mom. I like
as soon as I saw I'm their mom, like, it's like, you're gonna beat up some 17-year-olds?
I do really
like hurting your,
although to be fair,
grown-ass male children.
The 17,
I'm just like, what is
it's
happening?
A huntress, so it's kind of like if a soldier did that.
I know, but I'm just sort of like really? Like, I know it's supposed to be funny, but that's what it reminded me of, like, parents just getting involved. Like, parents of grown-ass people getting involved in their child's bit. Like, you know what I mean? Like, obviously, it seems like she decided to fight with them. Does that make sense? I'm just like, really?
Seems like a bit of a jump. Although I do really like this image of the beer bottle in the
yeah, so she basically, like, smashes.
They just kick the shit out of each other. And you miss this, which is why you should read the comic, is that after they run out, they're like, oh my god, I can't believe the saloon's still standing, and then it fucking explodes. And I love their facial expression. And it's like the comedy beats there are all there, and I think it really works. Which is why I think this is such a funny comic.
I'm just being a hard ass. But
you are being a hard ass. And talking about James Charles for no goddamn reason.
I'm just saying that's what it reminded me of. I'm like, why are you, as a parent, fighting a child?
You say that, but we both know
men. Like, I'm
that your mother would.
Well, I was still a kid, so that doesn't matter. Okay, these like are adults, and they're also buff, and it's just sort of like, you think that your grown children can't fight their own I'm just like, what are you based off of? Like, what was happening?
I don't know. Anyways, Yang's really torn up about not being able to help Blake.
What the fuck is happening with the chickens? Yang, do you want to come feed the chickens with me? I'm like, what
It's just so funny. It's just really funny that Ruby did it because she had no friends, and now she genuinely really likes feeding the chickens. Like, that's funny to me. I just dig it.
I don't know. I just don't know, Hunter. I don't know. I'm like...
And then Weiss comes in, and I don't know if we screamed cat. We didn't scream that, but Weiss has a really great thing about, like, I'm gonna use magic, and then when Yang realizes...
Ruby says, you forgot the other magic word, and, like, that's the other thing that makes it so childish to me. It's like, the magic word in this case is, like, I'm sorry, and it's like, you know...
Well,
like,
she's being purposefully kind of twee and childlike.
I don't know. It's just so
like,
weird.
It sounds sarcastic to me, like, you forgot the magic word. Like, it sounds sarcastic.
I don't think Ruby is sarcastic like that.
I feel I don't know.
So I feel like she meant it seriously, like, Yang,
I don't interpret it
you
as
forgot the other magic word that we all use. You know what I'm saying?
I don't know if I personally interpret it as that. She has this big monologue of just tell me how to make it right, and adorable cinnamon roll, beautiful cartoon Blake is just like, just be yourself. Just spend time with me. You don't have to help me.
And so that's what I was like this whole time. Because here's the thing. So people were excited about this because they were like, guys, it's the bees. They're on a date. But it's like, no, this entire time Yang was just spending time with her because she thought she had to help her like she helped everyone else. But the moral of this is like, hey, Yang, you don't need an excuse. Just spend fucking time with me. So I thought it was interesting that like the whole point of the comic was that Yang was doing something, I don't want to say wrong, but she was doing something wrong, and Blake wanted her to do sort of the opposite of the thing, but everyone was excited about the thing that Yang did wrong. Does that make sense?
But it still mattered a lot to Blake, because when you think about that sunflower pop, that she still thinks back on those fondly.
And then she'd throw it away.
Even if Yang was being a goof.
so fondly, she tossed it in the lake.
Well, yeah, but she does need to, like, abandon those, like, warm feelings to Yang. Just because she throws them away doesn't mean... When you break up with
someone, you put all their stuff in a box and you just put it in the closet.
Even if it made you happy in the moment.
Just in case you want it back someday. You don't throw it in the middle of the ocean.
Listen, you think you can, like, I don't know, you keep shit on file. Other people throw them into the lake. They're both, you know, valuable interpretations. Also, apparently there's a lake where you can fish near Beacon, and there's a rodeo. Like, it's the goddamn Calgary Stampede in here, and which means, like, what, are there matadors? Does Spanish culture exist in Remnant? Also, when they talk about when they're talking about books, they talk about Frankenstein, but they can't call it Frankenstein, and Dracula, but they can't call it Dracula.
Like, why not? They're public domain, DC!
But also, Dracula doesn't exist.
Why?
Why Remnant, not? Because Remnant isn't Earth. And for Dracula to exist, that means Bram Stoker would have to exist, which means, like, Transylvania would have to exist, which means that...
why can't they just make him a vampire man that, like, lives on Dragon Island and nobody comes to see... You know what I'm saying?
Well, then it would be... Well, then it would be basically what it is now, just not in title. That...
Yeah, but, like, he's not... Like, they could still call him Dracula.
But it's not Dracula.
But...
Because they change it, because it's Remnant, so might as well just change the title as well.
But does it need to be Transylvania for him to be Dracula?
I don't know.
Like, why can't it just be the same thing if this man that lives, like, in a scary mansion?
I feel like if you wrote a book, it was like, hello, this is my book, it's called Larry Potter. Now, Larry Potter lives in Scarborough, outside of Toronto, and, you know, he gets bullied by his older step cousins, and but then he goes to this magical, you know, city, not school, city.
Sure.
It's a French immersion school because it's Canada, and it's called Mogwarts. And then everyone's like, well, no, you can't do that because that's just a Harry Potter book. That's an infringement on J.K. Rowling's copyright.
You just called them
but you're like, nah, it's in a different place. It's better now.
Dracula, and like, you don't have to expand on them. You get the general gist of the story.
But you also get the gist of the story.
I know, but it's just so dumb. I'm like, it's public domain.
But they don't exist in Remnant.
Why not? Why can't Dr. Frankenstein exist in Remnant?
Because it takes place in England. England
Jekyll and Hyde takes place.
But Jekyll and Hyde isn't in there. It's the man with two souls.
I know, but Hunter, like, why can't they name it the same thing?
Which is very similar, but presumably takes place in Atlas.
Oh my god.
Instead of England.
Okay. Why?
Look at how cute Blake is. I am upset that I am fighting in front of that beautiful, beautiful creature. Look at how gorgeous she is.
If they made The Little Mermaid,
yes,
but called it The Fish Girl,
yes,
why could they not call it The Little Mermaid? Like, oh, it takes place in Denmark, it doesn't exist, but no, like, you can just call it The Little fucking Mermaid.
Or, but like, if it was RWBY, it would be like The Little Fish Faunist.
And I hate that, like, why? The Little Fish Girl, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, just, you understand now? Like, when you say it like that, does it not sound stupid?
I mean, it's kind of silly, but the whole vibe of the book is silly.
Or like Beauty and the Bear Faunist, like something like that. Like,
why not have Beauty and the Bear Faunist?
Because you can just call it Beauty and the Beast.
But it's not Beauty and the Beast.
But Beauty and the Beast isn't real, so it doesn't.
But it takes place in France, and France doesn't exist in Remnant. No one would be like, oh, like, no.
What I'm saying is that the stories aren't so connected to where they take place that it fucking matters. Okay?
Yeah, so it's just like, oh, this is the kooky Remnant version of it. It's kind of like in anime when you see a McDonald's, but it's a WickMonald's. And it's like, oh, it's a WickMonald's. You know what they mean by WickMonald's.
Let me rephrase, okay? If you were trying to put Hamilton into RWBY, I understand that because it's rooted in American history. You can't just take Hamilton and call it Hamilton. But these stories don't hinge on the fact that they happened in France or Victorian England or Denmark, okay? Because it's a little fucking mermaid.
But it also, like, you know, the Frankenstein has a lot to do with, like, the scientific revolution, and Jekyll and Hyde has a lot to do with...
Yeah, but they probably had their own scientific revolution, right?
Yeah, but it's not the English or,
but
like, the European one.
England doesn't matter.
It's like the Remnant spooky,
England
like, fantasy
doesn't
one.
matter, just call it.
Anyways, they learn the era of their ways. She starts reading a book that is, you know, not actually Dr. Hyde is Schmuckter and Blythe.
Here's the thing. Is that not a direct... So, in RWBY...
Is that a cup? No, that's a flash of cup. It looked like it was Yang's Invisalign in the corner.
They've been taking direct quotes from Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde in the DC
Which is
comic.
just a wacky contrivance that...
I'm just saying that they're copying and pasting the same text, so you can't call it what it is. I don't know if this part's actual, I think this is the end, actually, because the whole thing in Jekyll and Hyde, if you guys don't know, it's not actually from his point of view. It's from the point of view of some random asshole.
It's kind of like
just involved in this.
That's a big thing in like an old, very like Phantom of the Opera, the same way that the book isn't about the Phantom of the Opera. It's about a dude just investigating. Like this one was about like a friend of Dr. or Mr. Hyde, or no, Dr. Jekyll,
something like that. And so so I think Yang's thing is maybe one day we'll have a story together.
Yes.
Or something. Because I thought she meant have a life together. And I was like,
so
oh,
romantic.
that's shippy, but just a story. I mean,
but
story's okay.
But also, I feel like it's
you want a story
shippy
together, just like that good old Dr. Jekyll.
Even outside of like shippiness, I just thought this was like a really fun, kind of kooky, lighthearted comic.
Yeah, I mean, it was alright.
I thought it had some good comedy beats.
I do like
I liked
it, but there's other things that are just so
I like the Yang in it.
Distracting to me.
I enjoyed that. Like I enjoyed the chickens and I enjoyed the count and all that.
I would have liked this better if they didn't have some like all of this contrivance of like Yang needing to help people, because I do get it and I understand its relation to the burning candle if you do want to sort of draw the dots there to how she helps Blake later, but like why couldn't this just be Yang goes on a date with Blake, the comic? You know what I mean? Instead of getting this weird-ass note from Uncle Crow saying that you're a selfish asshole, why are you letting your sister feed the chickens?
I don't know, it's funnier this way. It's just more lighthearted and it's less serious than like romance.
I don't know.
But it still has like a poignant ending, I think.
But yeah, like, again, I like it. But would I have liked it better if RWBY didn't feed the chickens?
Shout out to my grade 4 teacher, Mr. Fortino, for reading Frankenstein, Dr. Jekyll, and Mr. Hyde. And I believe also Dracula to us.
What? But those, they're kind of boring, though.
Yeah. I mean, well, actually, everyone enjoyed it. You know what's a really funny thing about it, too, is we read both Tom Sawyer and The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn.
That's a little awkward.
And, it was only years later that I realized that the N-word shows up a lot in those books because he never read the N-word.
What did he say?
I don't remember.
He just didn't say anything?
But it was like, yeah, but I looked like a jackass. I'm like, what do you mean they use the N-word in Huckleberry Finn? I'm like, what do you mean they use it 300 times? I'm like, Mr. Fortino didn't say the N-word. And it's like, yeah, because he's a white guy and you were like 9 and he didn't want to lose his job, Hunter. Well, yeah, it was wild. But
I wonder if he would just say something else, like,
there's a version of
grapes. Instead of, you know, just like DC Comics here. Just says, you know, just a different fruit instead of, you know, a very deeply offensive cultural. I am sweating. This has been.
Anyways, you guys should totally read that comic. It was a lot of fun.
I think I'm gonna like permanently put parts of this video at 2 times speed, so we can just get through it. So we can just, you know, get through all of it. Anyway, yeah. So this was fun. We'll see you guys later. Bye. Thank you to all the patrons over on Patreon who support our channel. Their names will be showcased now.